Welcome back to The Explainer. Have you ever sat across from someone and before they even opened their mouth, your instincts were just firing? You couldn't quite name it, but something felt undeniably wrong. A subtle shift in the air, a slight tension you could feel but literally couldn't point to. Well, today we're doing a deep dive, a real psychological breakdown. We're using decades of FBI behavioral research to uncover exactly what your instincts were picking up on in those crucial moments. We're talking about the hidden, involuntary science of pre-verbal deception. We're going to decode the silent language of the human body before a single lie is ever actually spoken.
Okay, so what is the biggest mistake people make when trying to catch a liar? Let's put you right in the seat of the observer for a second. Imagine you're walking into a really high-stakes conversation. Maybe it's a massive business negotiation, a critical interview, or just an incredibly difficult personal confrontation. You know the other person might not be completely straight with you, right? The stakes are absolutely as high as they get. So ask yourself, what is the absolute biggest mistake people make when trying to catch a liar in that exact moment? Think about it. What are you actively looking for?
Waiting for them to speak. If you guess that, you hit the nail right on the head. We're completely shattering this myth today. Look, we are so socially conditioned to wait for a verbal slip-up. Since childhood, we've been taught to listen to words, analyze sentences, and wait for a stutter or a crack in their story. But here's the thing. Deception doesn't start with words. It starts way, way earlier. Honestly, by the time the verbal lie leaves their lips, you've already missed the most critical data.
Pre-verbal deception. Let's dive right into this and define our core concept. These are the physical, involuntary signals of deception that happen in the body, the posture, and the movement long before a single word is spoken. This whole idea is heavily grounded in years of FBI deception research. These are the exact, real-life tells that highly trained behavioral investigators look for when breaking down a suspect. And the crazy part? They are entirely involuntary. Basically, the deceiver's primitive brain is leaking the absolute truth through their physical body way before their conscious mind can even construct the lie. The body just completely betrays the mind.
1. The approach. 2. The sit. 3. The subconscious movements. Let's move to the timeline and see how this all builds, because this entire process happens within a totally fascinating, supercritical 30-second window. It breaks down into these 3 distinct phases. If you know how to accurately read these 3 steps, the conversation that follows is, well, it's almost just a formality. You're basically watching a real-time narrative unfold right in front of you.
And this brilliantly illustrates the contrast. We've got truthful behavior on one side, deceptive on the other. This is signal 1, the entrance. A truthful person just enters a room naturally, right? Their energy naturally matches the baseline of the moment. But a deceptive person, FBI behavioral research shows their entry is this heavily rehearsed performance. Their steps are slightly too careful. The entry is tightly controlled, almost like they're walking on thin ice. And then, this is the massive giveaway. You see their expression literally snap into place just before they settle into your view. A fake smile just activates, or this mask of intense seriousness drops down. They are completely over-prepared.
Signal 2, the subconscious exit strategy. We are now at the exact moment they pull out the chair and sit down right across from you. The tension in the room is rapidly rising. The conversation is literally seconds away from starting. You can feel the gravity of it. But immediately, right at this juncture, we hit this second signal.
So what are the actual indicators of this exit strategy? Angles body slightly away, creates tiny physical distance, points feet toward the nearest exit. Recent 2025 body language research from the APA shows exactly what this looks like in practice. When someone sits down with the intent to lie, they subconsciously create an escape route. Their primitive brain is going into full fight-or-flight mode. You'll see them angle their body just slightly away from you. They avoid squaring up shoulder to shoulder. They might lean back in the chair just a hair to create this tiny buffer zone between you and their lie. And incredibly reliably, they're going to point their feet toward the nearest exit. Their body's literally preparing to flee the scene before the conversation even kicks off. It is wild.
Genuine energy versus over-preparation. Now what's really interesting about this is how it shows signal 3. Psychology Today's 2026 data points out that liars arrive with an unusually calm, heavily controlled expression. They look way too settled, just too composed for someone walking into a situation where they have nothing to hide. It's a performance, guys. A calculated effort to look innocent. And a performance always looks slightly too perfect, a bit too rigid. Genuine people bring a natural, fluid, and sometimes kind of messy, emotional energy to a conversation. When someone is trying way too hard to look calm, that utter stillness is actually screaming that something is wrong.
Number 1, I actually want to slow down the pacing drastically right here. Just one single micro movement. This is signal 4.
As soon as this person sits down across from you, and importantly, right before you have asked a single hard question, watch for one brief touch to their face, their neck, or their collar. Just one fleeting second of physical contact. A quick rub of the nose, a tug at the collarbone, maybe a stroke of the chin.
Self-soothing in advance because the subconscious already knows what is coming. So the crucial point here is the deep psychological why behind this involuntary tell. FBI nonverbal research explains that that single touch is the body's self-soothing in advance. The psychological pressure hasn't even been applied by your questions yet, but their internal pressure cooker is already boiling over. The anxiety of the impending lie causes a physical spike in their nervous system. They literally have to physically comfort themselves to pacify their own nervous system for the lie they're about to tell you. Let that sink in.
Signal 5, the pre-conversation deep breath. This leads us to the final, incredibly cinematic moment of tension right before the conversation starts. If you're watching closely, sitting quietly in your observer role, you will see their chest rise. They'll take one slightly deeper, heavier breath than normal. It's the final physical preparation. They are literally settling themselves for the heavy cognitive load of deception.
The body is regulating stress that has no visible cause. The 2026 deception psychology research tells us exactly why this seemingly minor detail matters so much. Now, taking a controlled deep breath before a genuinely difficult, emotionally taxing conversation, that's completely normal. But taking a controlled deep breath before a conversation where nothing difficult has actually been said yet? Yeah, that is highly suspicious. The body is actively regulating a massive spike in stress that has zero visible cause in the room. The stress is entirely internal. It's the heavy, invisible burden of the lie they're carrying.
The 5 pre-verbal signals. Let's rapidly lock this all in. Seriously, take a mental screenshot of this toolkit right now. Keep these filed away. 1. The careful, controlled entrance, where the mask snaps into place. 2. The angled seating that creates a subconscious exit strategy. 3. The over-prepared, slightly too perfect expression masking their panic. 4. The advanced self-touch to the face or neck to self-soothe. And 5. The pre-conversation deep breath to regulate invisible stress.
The observers pivot. Do not react. Simply file them away. So what do you actually do with this new arsenal of psychological tactics? This brings us to the climax of the explainer. When you see these signals firing off one by one, your first instinct is probably going to be to call them out, right? To immediately accuse them. Don't. Do not react at all. The observer's pivot is to simply file them away in your mind. You sit there, completely calm, completely observant, and completely in control of the dynamic. You let the ensuing conversation either confirm or deny the behavioral signals you just logged. Within 30 seconds, before a single greeting is fully exchanged, you already know far more than you would from the next 10 minutes of talking.
The most powerful position in any conversation is knowing the truth before anyone has said a word. You're no longer passively waiting to be manipulated, you're actively observing the mechanics of the manipulation before it even starts. Take these FBI behavioral insights, use them to protect yourself, and fundamentally change the dynamic of every single room you walk into. So, the next time someone pulls out a chair and sits down across from you, what are their first 30 seconds really going to tell you? Keep analyzing, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.